Hi there! Before I share this story, I want to say something directly to you. The one listening right now. You've been doubted, haven't you? Laughed at, underestimated, maybe even told you're useless. I know how that feels. I lived it. But what if I told you that all of that, the pain, the rejection, the quiet nights where no one believed in you, can be your fuel? This isn't just my story. It's for anyone who's ever been counted out. So lean in, because by the end, you might just believe in your own power to rise too. I grew up in a small, two-story house in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Our house had peeling white paint and a front yard that always seemed overgrown. My dad worked long shifts at the factory. My mom juggled 2 part-time jobs, and yet somehow, they still managed to praise Jason and Emily for every little success. Jason was the golden child, star quarterback, straight A's, homecoming king. Emily was the achiever, piano recitals, art competitions, academic awards. And then there was me, Ryan Carter, the youngest, the least impressive, the dreamer, as my parents so kindly put it. At family dinners, Mom would beam at Jason. "Our future doctor," she'd say. She'd ruffle Emily's hair. "Our little prodigy." When her eyes landed on me, her smile faltered. And Ryan? Well, Ryan's figuring things out. It stung. Every time. School wasn't easy for me. Not because I wasn't smart, but because I didn't care. I'd sit in the back of class sketching out ideas for apps and websites. Coding tutorials became my escape. I spent hours in my room with our old, beat-up Dell, learning HTML and CSS from free forums. When I tried telling Dad about it, he waved me off. "You can't hide behind a screen forever, Ryan. Go toss a ball outside." But outside wasn't safe. Jason's friends called me Carter the Clown because I couldn't throw a spiral. Emily's friends laughed when I tripped over my own feet. So I stayed in. At 16, I built a small website selling custom phone cases. I made $200 in 3 months. To me, it was a victory. To Dad, it was a hobby. By senior year, the label had stuck. Jason headed to the University of Michigan on a football scholarship. Emily got accepted into Juilliard's summer program. At the dinner table, Mom wiped away proud tears. Then she looked at me. "So, Ryan, any plans after graduation?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm starting an online store." Jason laughed so hard, he nearly choked on his food. "An online store? You?" Dad shook his head. "You need a real job, Ryan. Something steady. You'll be back in our basement in 6 months." I clenched my fists under the table. I didn't argue. I never did. But that night, staring at the ceiling in my dark room, I whispered to myself, "I'll prove you wrong." The summer after graduation was suffocating. Jason was off at Michigan living the college dream. Emily was busy prepping for Juilliard's fall audition, and I was still stuck in Cedar Falls. No applause, no bright future, just me and a beat-up laptop. I took a job at the gas station on Main Street. It paid $8 an hour and smelled of stale coffee and motor oil. During long night shifts, I'd scribble ideas in a notebook between refilling coffee pots and stocking shelves. I had no roadmap, just a relentless itch to create something, anything, that could pull me out of the small-town dead end my family thought I belonged in. At home, I spent every spare minute learning. YouTube tutorials, forums, free ebooks about e-commerce and Facebook ads. While Jason's Instagram was filled with frat parties and Emily's with piano recital videos, mine had nothing but screenshots of analytics dashboards. By August, I'd launched my first Shopify store. It was clunky, ugly even, but it worked. I focused on niche kitchen gadgets, avocado slicers, garlic choppers, ergonomic peelers. They weren't glamorous, but I could mark them up and ship directly from overseas suppliers. The first sale came on a Thursday night, $19.99. Someone in Oregon had ordered a spiralizer. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. My first customer. My first win. Congrats, Ryan. I whispered to myself. No one else would say it. At dinner that weekend, I tried to share my small victory. I made my first online sale this week. Jason smirked. How much? 20 bucks? Don't spend it all in one place. Dad didn't even look up from his plate. That's not a job, Ryan. It's a gamble. You need steady work, health insurance, a pension. Mom gave me a pitying smile. It's nice you're trying, sweetheart. Just don't get your hopes up. But I did. I had to. That night, I pulled out my notebook and wrote in big block letters across the top of a fresh page. I will never be useless. The next few months were brutal. I worked 12-hour shifts at the gas station, came home, and worked another 6 hours on the store. Mistakes piled up, bad suppliers, late shipments, angry emails. But I learned. By Christmas, I'd made $1,500 in profit. It wasn't much, but it felt like I was finally moving. When I told Mom, she said, "That's nice, dear, but don't quit your job." I didn't. Not yet. By the time spring rolled around, the gas station felt like a prison. Every shift felt longer, the fluorescent lights harsher, and every customer's small talk more unbearable. But I kept going because every night, when I got home and saw my Shopify dashboard glowing on my laptop screen, I felt alive. January's profit doubled in February. By April, I was pulling in $5,000 a month. Not revenue, profit. I reinvested every cent. New products, better ad campaigns, professional branding. I even hired a freelance graphic designer from California who gave my store a clean, modern look. At dinner one Sunday, I couldn't resist sharing. My store did $5,000 in profit last month, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Jason scoffed. And how much of that did you spend on ads? You probably broke even. Actually, no, I replied calmly. I'm net positive. Dad frowned. 5,000 isn't bad, but you can't count on that lasting. You're still at the gas station, right? Don't get cocky. Mom gave her usual half smile, like she wanted to be proud but didn't know how. I nodded and dropped the subject. But inside I burned. By summer, I was making enough to quit the gas station. I typed out my resignation on a sticky counter during a slow shift, smiling like an idiot. When I walked out that last night, I didn't look back. I moved into a small studio apartment downtown. It wasn't much, just a single room with a kitchenette and a bathroom. But it was mine. I worked 16-hour days, sleeping on a futon surrounded by boxes of inventory. Every order notification felt like a middle finger to the family that had written me off. By my 21st birthday, I hit my first $100,000 month. This time, I didn't tell them. Not yet. By 21, I was running on caffeine and adrenaline. My studio apartment was stacked high with shipping boxes and packing materials. I'd upgraded from a beat-up laptop to a sleek MacBook Pro, and my Shopify dashboard felt like a lifeline. Every morning started with coffee and spreadsheets. Every night ended with me answering customer emails until my eyes blurred. My social life was non-existent, but I didn't care. Success was addictive. By the end of that year, I crossed $1 million in total sales. That's when the calls from home started. "Ryan," Mom said one night, "your father's hours got cut. Things are tight. Could you maybe help with the mortgage this month?" I stared at the phone in silence. This was the same woman who, for years, barely acknowledged my business. But I wasn't heartless. "Sure, Mom. I can help." It started small. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Then Jason called. "Bro, my student loans are crushing me. Could you spot me $5,000? Just until I get on my feet." I wired it the next day. No questions asked. Emily was next. "My car died. Any chance you could help with a down payment?" I paid it. At first, I told myself I was doing it because I was better than them. Kinder. But deep down, I knew the truth. I liked the power shift. For the first time, they needed me. By 24, I'd moved my company into a proper office space in Des Moines. I had a team of 12 employees and a warehouse filled with inventory. My eco-friendly home goods brand had just been featured in a Forbes 30 Under 30 article. At Christmas that year, I drove up to the old house in Cedar Falls in a brand new Tesla. Jason's jaw tightened when he saw it. Emily avoided eye contact. At dinner, Mom smiled nervously. "Ryan, we're so proud of you." Jason cleared his throat. "Hey, do you have any openings at your company? Things haven't been great at work for me." Emily chimed in. "Same here. I'm between jobs." Dad stayed quiet, staring into his mashed potatoes. I took a long sip of water, savoring the moment. "Actually, I might have some positions." Their relief was palpable. I smiled. For years, they called me useless. Now, they were asking me for work. 2 weeks later, Jason was wearing a branded polo shirt with my company's logo, hauling boxes in one of my warehouses. Emily was sitting behind a desk at customer service, answering emails and calls. Dad was part of the shipping team, scanning packages with a barcode gun. I hadn't planned it this way. Part of me thought I'd feel guilty, but as I walked past them in my tailored suit, coffee in hand, I felt powerful. The same people who dismissed my dreams were now clocking in under my name. "Morning, Ryan," Jason said one day, his voice tight. "Morning," I replied casually, barely slowing my stride. Emily avoided eye contact whenever I entered her department. I overheard her once telling a co-worker she never thought she'd end up here. Dad was quieter than ever, his proud posture from years ago replaced with slouched shoulders as he stacked boxes. By the end of the year, my company had expanded internationally. I traveled to conferences in New York and San Francisco, spoke on panels about entrepreneurship, and closed deals with investors who once ignored my cold emails. At one gala, someone asked, "What's your secret to success?" I smiled. Doubt. My family doubted me every step of the way, and that became my fuel. At the next family dinner, Mom set the table like nothing had changed, but I saw the subtle deference in how she handed me the first plate. Jason and Emily avoided the topic of work altogether. "So, how's the company?" Dad asked finally. I leaned back. "Thriving. We're projecting $50 million in revenue this year." The silence was thick. I took a sip of wine. For years, they'd called me useless. Now, I owned their paychecks. The following months cemented what I already knew. I was no longer the black sheep. I was the shepherd, and my family was following. Jason reported to a warehouse manager who was 10 years younger than him. Emily had a supervisor who gave her scripted responses to customer complaints. And Dad, once the authoritarian figure at home, now punched in and out like everyone else, no longer giving orders but taking them. Every time I passed by their stations, I noticed their discomfort. Jason's jaw tightened when I walked through the warehouse. Emily would minimize her screen, as if she didn't want me to see her menial tasks. Dad kept his head down. I wasn't cruel. I didn't berate them or assign them to the worst shifts, but I didn't go out of my way to make things easier either. They were employees now, not family, at least during working hours. In board meetings, my executives discussed the possibility of franchising overseas. Investors were throwing money at us, and the company valuation soared into 9 figures. My calendar filled with speaking engagements, interviews, and strategy sessions. But late at night, in the penthouse apartment I'd bought overlooking downtown Des Moines, I found myself staring at the ceiling. I had everything I thought I wanted: power, respect, success. But why did it still feel like something was missing? Thanksgiving came, and for the first time in years, I didn't join the family table. Instead, I sent a catered meal to their house with a handwritten note. "Thank you for the motivation, Ryan." Emily texted a polite thank you. Jason didn't respond. Mom called later, her voice tight with something between pride and regret. "Ryan, you know we weren't fair to you back then." "I know," I said. My voice was calm, almost cold. "And now we're even." I hung up. Winter settled over Iowa like a heavy blanket, muffling the city's sounds and slowing its pace. My company, however, didn't slow down. We were now a global name, with offices in New York, London, and Tokyo. I rarely slept, caught between time zones and high-stakes meetings. But success had a strange aftertaste. One late evening, while reviewing expansion plans in my penthouse, I got an unexpected call. "Ryan," Mom's voice came through hesitant. "Your father's not well. The stress, it's catching up with him." For a moment, I felt nothing. Then, a flicker of something, pity maybe, before my armor clicked back into place. "Have him take some time off," I said flatly. "We offer generous leave." "Ryan," she paused, "this isn't just about work. We were wrong about you. All those years. You didn't deserve it." I stayed silent, the memory of countless family dinners where I sat invisible replaying in my mind. "Ryan, please. Can we start over?" she whispered. I took a deep breath. "Mom, I built this life because I couldn't rely on any of you. I don't know if there's a way back from that." Tears filled her voice. "I understand." When the call ended, I stared at the city lights below. I'd spent years climbing, building, proving, and now, at the summit, the air felt thin and lonely. A month later, I gathered my family in the company's main boardroom. Jason, Emily, and Dad sat across from me. "You've all worked hard here," I began, "but it's time for you to move on. You're free from this place, and from me as your boss." Jason's eyes widened. "Are you firing us?" "No, I'm giving you a chance to build your own lives. You've leaned on me long enough." Emily whispered, "Ryan, we're sorry." "Truly?" I nodded. "I know, but I can't carry the past forever." As they left, Mom lingered at the door. "Proud of you, Ryan. Always have been. We were just too blind to say it." "Thank you," I said quietly. Epilogue. Years later, standing before a crowd of young entrepreneurs, I shared my story. They called me useless. They laughed at my dreams. But your worth isn't defined by others. It's defined by how far you're willing to go to prove them wrong. Applause erupted, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was running from my past. I was finally free.